Good evening to those who have already joined us. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes before we start to allow a little time for latecomers. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for this Teams Live briefing on the Moseley Local Centre proposals that we currently have out for consultation. My name is Rebecca Hawthorne. I'm the Travel Demand Manager for Birmingham City Council, and I'm also joined this evening by Sophie Rafiq, who also works in the Travel Demand Management team, and Alex Kernan from our Infrastructure Projects team. And we'll be taking you through the proposals this evening. So we'll just begin in a moment. Sophie will talk a little bit about the policy context and the previous engagement we've done around this scheme, and then she'll hand over to Alex to talk through the detail of the scheme. As this is a Teams Live event, I'm afraid you won't be able to sort of unmute and speak out loud to ask your questions, but we do have Q&A facility to the side of your screen. If you type any questions you've got in there, then we may be able to answer those in text as the presentation goes on, or we'll also have a bit of time that we can spend at the end of the session for any questions that have come in. We will also make the recording of this event available online for anyone who isn't able to catch it live. So welcome also if you're joining us on the recorded broadcast. So I will now pass over to Sophie to start us off with the policy context. Thank you, Sophie.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll just start with talking about some wider policy context from a Birmingham City Council point of view. So in Birmingham, we are trying to improve the environment and transport within the city. The Birmingham Transport Plan highlights the main ways in which we want to achieve this, and this is our main plan for transport within the next 10 or so years. So two key priorities in the Birmingham Transport Plan link with this scheme. The first is prioritising active travel in local neighbourhoods. So this is making active travel the first choice for short journeys. The second is managing demand through parking measures. So looking at parking as a way to manage demand for travel by adjusting things such as the availability of it, pricing and restrictions. For example, if parking is not as easily available at a destination, we're hoping this might make people reconsider the way that they get there. We also have the Birmingham walking and cycling strategy. The main aim of this is to make walking and cycling the everyday choice for local journeys and leisure activities by creating an integrated transport network and providing the infrastructure to make that happen, such as cycle routes, for example. Yeah, so we have a number of temporary changes that were put in place in Moseley in 2020 in response to COVID-19 to create a safer space for people and to enable social distancing in this area of high footfall. So the footway was widened, parking was removed, and road space was reallocated along Ulster Road and St Mary's Row. It also says on the slide a couple of other things that we did at the time, such as providing a bus stop build out outside of the co-op and installing social distancing signs. In April 2021, we asked for your comments on the local centre changes, and we received mainly positive feedback. Around 20% of respondents highlighted parking issues, specifically illegal and inconsiderate parking, as being a main concern in the area. Now I'll hand over to my colleague Alex, who will discuss the cycle route we have in Moseley and how it links with the wider cycle network.
Hi, so I'm Alex Kernan and I'm just going to briefly talk about the scheme. So the pink area that you can see on screen is the Moseley Local Centre scheme. So that's the main scheme that we're going to talk about. We've then got this purple section heading up towards Edgbaston Park Road, which is where we've got the Moseley Spur scheme, which is a new scheme that we've already consulted on last year. So you can see how the two schemes interlink. It is going via Chantry Road in an advisory capacity at the moment. Should further funding be identified later on, we may look at other alternative options there, i.e. a segregated cycle facility or another proposal there. That will then take us up to the pink section, which is just at the top of the screen there, which ties into the new Pershall Priory scheme, which has recently been delivered on site. And then that then takes us into the city via the blue Birmingham Cycle Revolution scheme, which was delivered back in 2019. So this is the main scheme plan. So what you can see on screen there is that we anticipate that cyclists will use Chantry Road following coming out of the city, using the shared area shown in pink on the side of Chantry Road, on the Ulster Road, crossing over in a toucan facility to the opposite side of the road, which again will be shared use. There will be access for cyclists coming off Ulster Road so that they can actually in fact join this segregated cycle route if they were coming from the city via an alternative route. And then there's a fully segregated cycle track, which we're looking to introduce in the footprint of the social distancing measures that we previously introduced. So that will be cycleway widening through that section. There will be a priority across King Edward Road, and that will continue on towards Maryvale Road, and then up St Mary's Row towards the station. Obviously the segregated cycle route doesn't go quite up to the station at the moment. There may be future plans to do that as part of the station works, but this is as far as we're going to take it as part of this local centre scheme. As part of the scheme, we've also introduced a loading bay on King Edwards Road, and we've also introduced a couple of disabled bays on King Edwards Road, and finally 2 other disabled bays on St Mary's Row. And that's pretty much the premise of the scheme. So I'll defer back to my colleague Rebecca for any questions.
So yeah, this is just how you can have your say on the consultation. So the first link is the Birmingham Be Heard link that has the questionnaire on there. If you'd rather fill out a paper questionnaire, then we have those in the Moseley Community Hub, and the address for that is on screen. Any other questions that you have about the scheme can be emailed to the email address, so connected@birmingham.gov.uk. And then we also have a drop-in event, which is Thursday, 22nd of September, which is going to be at the Moseley Exchange, and the address is also on screen.
Thank you, Sophie and Alex. And of course, the consultation ends on Friday, the 30th of September. So whichever means of feedback you're using to let us know your views, then please do that before the 30th. just give a moment. If anybody would like to ask any questions, then please do pop them into the Q&A on the side of the screen there. Pop back to the scheme plan, that's probably useful. Okay, so one question we have been asked is around the interaction with the monthly Moseley Farmers Market that takes place one weekend per month, and just how that will work, because the cycle route, as we've laid out here, is in space that is currently occupied by stalls there. What we envisage for that is that the farmers market will be able to apply for a closure of the cycle route in the same way that they apply for a closure of part of the road to accommodate the cycle route. So on that one day per month, we anticipate that the cycle route will be closed, but that people will be able to use sections leading into it to access the farmers market, but that it won't be available for actually cycling on that section. Anybody does have any other questions, then please do pop them into the Q&A. Yeah, perhaps Alex, could you tell us just a little bit more about how that bus stop outside the co-op works in relation to the cycle route, please?
Yeah, no problem. So to manage the interface at the bus stop, what we've done is we've introduced a section where pedestrians can cross over to access the bus. So the expectation is that pedestrians would be waiting near to the shop there, the co-op, and they would then cross over once the bus has arrived. Obviously sort of looking out to see if there was any cyclists passing. Cyclists would need to give way if pedestrians are crossing over at this point. And then that will allow people to access the bus stop. In terms of pedestrians alighting from the bus, once they've finished their journey, there is a small section of a buffer which is shown in green there, which is about 1/2 metre wide. That just gives pedestrians a section to stand on. So if there is a cyclist using the cycling infrastructure, that they can pass before the pedestrian uses the crossing.
Thank you. We've just got a question raised about businesses having pavement licences and how that will be accommodated around the cycle route. But the query there said that they'll come along to the event on Thursday and maybe talk about the specifics of which business that is. But I think in terms of the answer there, we'll need to talk to our colleagues who issue the pavement licences, because it's actually a different department from the council. So we'll pick that one up, because yeah, appreciate that may be an issue for some businesses. Thank you. And we've got a question here about how will parking restrictions be enforced given the existing levels of illegal and inconsiderate parking. So I can pick that one up. So in terms of parking restrictions, there's the sort of parking restrictions that the City Council can enforce is effectively anywhere there is a line on the ground, so a double yellow line, a single yellow line, we can carry out civil enforcement on that. And we have our civil enforcement colleagues who do regular patrols right across the city and who schedule in times visiting all of these areas. If there are particular problems, we can also pass on to them and they can look at increasing patrols there as and when they're needed. There's also inconsiderate and illegal parking, which is not marked by lines and signs, is something that police would need to enforce. So that, for instance, is if people are parking too close to a corner, but there aren't double yellow lines, and that's a matter that would be for police enforcement. So that's members of the public can raise that with the police, or we can talk to our colleagues in the policing teams. But if there are specific concerns around particular areas where there is illegal parking happening, then if you can let us know kind of when and where that might be, we can pass it on to our civil enforcement colleagues. Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions from anybody? I think that may be the extent of them now. Just give it one more minute. No, I think that may be it for questions. So just sort of in terms of the next steps, obviously we've said that the consultation here will close on the 30th of September. We'll then go and read everybody's comments, work out what comments have been made, work out if we need to make alterations to the scheme. We would then need to go through our governance processes, and we would need to create a traffic regulation order, which is the legal paperwork that we require to make changes in to the roads. And Alex, can you remind me, are we doing this one on a standard TRO?
Yes, this one will be done under.
Yes. So the way that works is that there will be a further statutory period of consultation that will take place before we can put the scheme in. So that is kind of a further opportunity for people to make comments. But if you make comments now, it's a lot easier for us to make modifications to the design now before we get to that kind of statutory consultation process. And we'd then be looking at delivery of the scheme in 2023, probably hopefully in Q1, but depending on when we can get contractors available. OK, we've got another question just come in. Did you consider taking the lane up the other side of the Ulster Road or up Woodbridge Road? And that's another one for Alex, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we thought the idea behind it was really to utilise the area that we'd already taken for the social distancing measures. So we felt that it worked quite well on site with the parking that we suspended during that period of time. So that really worked in terms of designing it on that side of the scheme. It also provides a link towards the station from Chancery Road. So although it is in a sort of advisory capacity on the carriageway with traffic, it does sort of get you on the side of the station. The other thing that it does is it links towards the low traffic neighbourhoods which have been delivered in King's Heath, so it sort of takes you to the bottom end of the measures that we're looking to introduce there. So we just felt that that sort of provided a bit more of a clear link to the other schemes as well.
Thanks, Alex.
No problem.
Again, that may be the end of the questions, I think. At which point then just thank everybody for your time in attending today, and so you'd be very welcome if you also wanted to come along on this Thursday to the drop-in event that we've got. I'll just pop back to the slide with the information there. So there's a drop-in event this Thursday between 4 and 7. No appointment needed for that one. Just turn up and come and chat to members of staff. Or there's the main consultation website there at the top, which has got the questionnaire. So that's the easiest way really to give your feedback on the scheme. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening.